All right. So let me introduce my next guest to you, if I can get my act together here. He is Michael Gates. He is the city attorney for the city of Huntington Beach, California. And he has been fighting the good fight against the excesses of our government here in the great state of California, including things like beach lockdowns. In fact, I kind of want to start there. Michael is husband, dad of 5, which is God bless you, God bless you. Little league coach, small business owner, partner at a California law firm, successful litigating attorney, has been defending numerous clients in a wide range of legal issues. And welcome, Michael Gates. Thank you for coming in to do this.
It's an honor to be here. Thank you so much.
Everybody hear Michael okay, Susan? His mic seems a little low for me. Is that true? Try it again.
I hear him. He's good.
Thank you very much.
There you are. There you are. Caleb, we good?
Oh, yeah. All good. All good.
Okay, perfect. Well,
Your
thank you for
soccer dad voice.
So, talk to me first about what happened with the lockdowns and what happened in Huntington Beach, what the governor did that you fought against.
Yeah, so to begin with, I've been city attorney of Huntington Beach since 2014, and it's an elected position.
It's a long time.
Yeah, it's been 10 years, and I ran for city attorney in 2014 because I love the city of Huntington Beach. I've grown up there. That's my hometown. And so the little bit of history that you gave the audience, that was the experience that I had going into the job. And since then, I've been representing the city. What folks may not know is Huntington Beach, even though not always in the news and not known as a massive city, actually a really, really big city in the state of California. Out of 482 cities in the state of California, Huntington Beach is the 24th largest.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, and it's the 4th largest in the county. So, Huntington Beach really has a lot of pride. There's 200,000 residents. And the city council for a number of years has really wanted to assert itself and really where it can find or assert its independence from the state of California. And it can as a charter city, and we can get into that in a little bit. But at the end of the day, local control is a big issue. And to your question about the beach closure, when Governor Newsom came down and shut our beaches down, literally closed them in 2020, ostensibly because of COVID and health concerns, the city snapped back. We filed a lawsuit, and within about 24 hours, the governor opened up the beaches again. And just to give the audience a little bit of an idea of how incredibly draconian, but just to see state armed guards on our beaches, keeping our people off of the beach, to see concrete barricades.
Were they masked? How was it masked? Did they have a N95 on?
I don't recall masks.
Yeah,
but to see concrete barricades and bulldozers down there pushing heaps of sand onto the pedestrian paths and the boardwalks so that people couldn't walk. Now, we have 8 miles of pristine, undeveloped coastline. That's 8 miles of beach in Huntington Beach. And there were a lot of people. And if you remember the lockdowns, you couldn't go to a grocery store all the time. You couldn't go to a bank. You couldn't even go to church. But people were trying to go to the beach because that was sort of a refuge away from the lockdown and what it was doing to people's lives. It was so disruptive. To be able to go out onto the beach during the summer, feel the warm sun, and the sand, and enjoy the beach, Governor Newsom was not having any of it. And he literally came down with armed guards, bulldozers, and concrete barricades and closed our beaches. So we took him to court.
It's so disgusting that he went that way. I remember it so vividly. I particularly remember when we were eventually allowed to go on the beach, but you had to stand. You weren't allowed to put a towel down and sit down. And they had the poor lifeguards doing the whole thing. I felt so bad for those young men. But I also remember I went along with it at the beginning. I was shocked when he did it, and I thought, all right, well, I remember he called the Navy hospital ship in and stuff, and I thought, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe this is far worse than I can imagine, and he's preparing for the worst. He's got a lot of responsibility. I'm going to be a good citizen, and I'm going to support him. Mm-hmm. I never imagined 6 months later, 12 months later, 18 months later. I kept just saying, God almighty, Florida's open. Disney World is open. Just imagine all those businesses around Disneyland, all those tens of thousands of people, employees, business owners, they're destroyed. No concern. No concern.
And Huntington Beach really did what it could at the time to keep our businesses open. And we really, we really didn't follow the state mandates, as you can imagine.
Well, Orange County was a refuge.
Yeah.
We went down every weekend to Orange County so we could have dinner in Dana Point. That sheriff, that guy was, you remember that guy?
Yeah.
What was his name?
Sheriff Don Barnes.
Don Barnes. Don Barnes, let's put some statue up for that guy because he said, this is not my job. I'm not going to enforce this. This is the Nazi prison guards.
Right.
This is what they did.
Right. And it's government's job to balance the need to address health concerns like they did with the Spanish flu back in 1918. But also, we have to be a free country and remain a free country. And if the government can use basically any health issue as a pretext to take away our freedoms, then this whole democracy, freedom thing is really just so long as the government says it's okay for the time being. And that's just not America. And so Huntington Beach knows that. Not only do we have, Huntington Beach folks in Huntington Beach who are proud as Huntington Beach residents, but they are patriots. I mean, there are American flags being driven around on vehicles all the time. There are, rallies down at the pier by PCH all of the time, freedom rallies and so on and so forth. We say in Huntington Beach, not only are we the land of the free in California, but we are also sort of a beacon of light. I think we're the last stand for what freedom might look like in California. And I don't say that flippantly. As I said, there's 482 cities in the state of California. Huntington Beach is really the only city that's fighting back on all of this stuff, whether it's beach closures or the high density housing cram down. Is that
because of you?
Well, in part, it's because of me. I'm happy to take the charge and fight. And I'm happy to be in court every day. And I am, if I have to fight a lot of these oppressive policies. And I can get into it more as you want to, but even the high density housing cram down, that is not about affordable housing. And I can go into some detail with you on that. But we're also now fighting, the state is suing Huntington Beach over its new voter ID policy. So Huntington Beach passed in this last primary in March, a new voter ID policy that people have to show, or voters have to show ID at the polls when they want to vote in municipal elections.
Outrageous idea.
So first of all, what's outrageous is out of 482 cities, we're the only city that has it. There should be a lot more cities that have that kind of thing.
People rolled over. We feel helpless
Exactly. And now the state has said it's illegal and we're going to sue you. So they're taking us to court. So I'm now in court defending Huntington Beach over that. And then as you want to get into it, we can get into the fact that Huntington Beach now adopted a new ordinance, or is implementing an ordinance that basically says the new state law, AB 1955, that interferes between a parent and a child, i.e. basically mandates that educators don't tell parents about their child's gender preference or gender confusion. We're taking the state to task on that as well, because regardless of where you are on the gender issue, the state should not be a wedge between parents and children and should not be a barrier to their communication. Parents are the primary educators of children. And so we in Huntington Beach are standing up for our parents in Huntington Beach, and we're standing up to the state of California on that front as well.
What about Prop 47?
Prop 47, so this is a really great question. It ties into what I've been doing as city attorney in Huntington Beach. So our charter has always held that the city attorney has the ability to prosecute crimes, state crimes. And I got elected in 2000.
Even if they're under $800, under $900, you can even do that? I'm shocked.
So we handle every misdemeanor like a felony. We're pretty aggressive on prosecuting crimes. But Prop 47 came down around that time when I got elected, and I went to our police department and I went to our Orange County district attorney and I said, hey, look, I think we need to do more in response to Prop 47 and 57 and AB 109. We need to do more to support our police department. So we actually started prosecuting for the first time, very new program in 2017 in our office, in the city attorney's office. We have now 2 community prosecutors who are out prosecuting crime. And that is thanks to, at the time, Governor Brown and his policies, but really thanks to Attorney General Harris, who lobbied and advocated for Prop 47, 57, AB 109. And what's sad about her involvement in that is that as the top prosecutor, you should be on the side of law enforcement. You should uphold and defend the rule of law, and you should be interested in enforcing an orderly society. And she did the opposite. She literally hoodwinked the public into adopting 47, 57, and AB 109 by claiming that it advanced safe communities and safe schools, and it absolutely did not.
Well, for those of you that aren't from California, these are the laws that allow people to go. It's what's all causing all the shoplifting. It's what's causing all the businesses to close. Why San Francisco's an empty, vacant lot now is that you could go in and you can steal up to $950 or something of anything you want and run out, and you'll get a ticket essentially. And I don't know how many of those tickets get followed up by appearance in court. I would say 0. And there we go. I mean, my patients. There it is. Newsom scraps plan to put Prop 47 reform measure on the ballot. What is that? Well, I thought that was going forward.
He said his schedule was too tight.
Oh God, this is so terrible. It's just, and of course, it allows drug addicts to continue to support their habits, and they die as a result. Just you're actually killing people with this.
Right. And our top leadership in the state of California, including our attorney general, they're really rewarding criminals, and they're punishing everyday citizens, and they're punishing the taxpayer, and they're really taking the ability away of prosecutors to really effectively enforce crimes.
So what is this? What is happening in our state?
I think, frankly, I may have an overly cynical view, but I think there are some highly progressive policies that really systematically seek to destabilize certain pillars of an orderly society. And I think this is one of them, right? We had great laws, great criminal laws, great law enforcement for decades and decades and decades in California. We were known as a safe state, as many other states. And what does the progressive policies do? They undermine it, they attack it, they destabilize it. And so here we are now with, as you said, crime in the streets. We got these smash and grabs up to $950 without really any consequences. But
none that mean anything.
A whole host of other crimes too.
Sure.
And so we are enabling and rewarding criminals. And
including that it also reclassified a bunch of crimes. I think it was 57. There was AB 109, where like rape with beating was not a felony or something.
And even early release. Like we're not going to really have you spend any time in jail anyway. We're going to let you out early. So a whole host of issues. And, what we're seeing in Huntington Beach, and as everybody knows, I think Governor Newsom was the mayor of San Francisco. Kamala Harris, originally from San Francisco as well. That city has been run down. It's been overpopulated. It's the prosecutors there have not prosecuted crime. And it's really hurt the communities. It's hurt the quality of life. And really what Newsom and Harris, when she was in office as AG at the time too, they just started exporting this disorder, this lack of law and order to other cities. And so that's, we've been seeing that in Huntington Beach. We've been seeing that in other cities. And that's why we're fighting back. And like you said earlier, one of the reasons is I'm an elected official. I'm the top attorney in the city. I'm responsible for not only for the civil cases, but also the criminal prosecution. And we're taking a tough stand. We are pushing back, whether it's beach closures, or like I said, the high density housing cram down, which is completely, I don't think the audience is, they're not going to believe what I have to say on that issue, but even the criminal stuff like you're talking about, it's crazy.
Well, I'll let you speak to that in just a second, but I want to circle back to Alexis de Tocqueville, which I mentioned earlier, and his other observation on democracy in America, 1820, was that the reason democracy in America worked was because of the local practice of democracy, which is what you're talking about. And we have moved strangely away from local democracy to centralized authorities and bureaucratic infrastructures that really came out of the French Revolution. The Jacobins wanted that. And then the Soviets and the Maoists did that with a dictator. And what are we doing? You said they're trying to destabilize central pillars. Is this centralized authority part of that whole process?
Well, what it is the elitists in Sacramento don't trust local democracy. And I'm glad you brought that up because, believe it or not, Dr. Drew, this is one of the arguments I make in court every day is like, look, there are certain functions that were designed and have been enforced as such for decades to be a matter of local control. Whether it's local policing, right? What do our police do on the street is really a matter of local control, not Sacramento control. But even our housing policies and our zoning and our land use policies with all the high density cram down, Huntington Beach is 100% built out. We've been zoning for ourselves for decades. And now the state's coming in and saying, no, you're going to start zoning and you're going to start building the way we want you to. So there really is a centralized government or a grab for greater centralized government. And I've been telling the court and I've been telling my constituents when I go out and talk at town halls, look, this is a pulling away of democracy. They are stripping your voice. They are stripping
COVID teach them that? COVID was a great lesson. Yeah. Are people not learning that lesson?
Well,
did they not see the bulldozers pouring over your beaches?
And I know that people in Huntington Beach appreciate it and they know it. And I know the people in the county of Orange know it, but I think that's sort of the rub. Sacramento also knows it and they just want more. They don't care. And so they see Huntington Beach and even Orange County to some extent, but particularly Huntington Beach as a bastion for self-governance and American pride and Huntington Beach pride. And so they are literally targeting Huntington Beach and they are trying to punish us and take that ability of self-governance away from us.
Jesus, again, the public. What do we do? I mean, again, for me, the big lesson was COVID and that centralized authority of public health, which was so egregiously wrong and misguided and pathetic. The opposite of how good medicine is practiced, opposite of how democracy is practiced. I mean, I see you fighting. I see what you're doing in Huntington Beach. Susan's from Newport, so we were very close to Huntington. Used to go to the Bear.
Mm-hmm.
Golden Bear back in the day.
Yep.
And people that should know Huntington.
I performed there.
That's right. Huntington Beach was it was sort of the 60s, all the surf stuff was Huntington Beach, and people should be very familiar with that in terms of a California iconic Beach Boys sort of city. But it's a big, long stretch of beach, and it's a big community, and it's attached to, it's adjacent to Disneyland, and Fountain Valley is right there, and these are big cities that are, lots of people live there. Should be allowed to live their life with freedom and representation locally.
And that area is unlike other areas in the state. So the one size fits all that's coming out of Sacramento clearly doesn't work. It doesn't fit Huntington Beach. And the other thing is the government closest to the people is best for the people, right? So when we have accountability of our local elected officials and they're making decisions for the voters there, not only do they know what's best for the city, they know how to zone for the city. They know how to handle the beaches.
Listen, medicine is the same model. Who knows best? The doctor with the patient in front of them, not somebody in Sacramento telling the doctor he or she has to do something. That's a level of insanity that just blew my mind. But, I was just thinking about your great district. In addition to the great Susan Pinsky coming from Newport Beach, Michelle Pfeiffer came from Fountain Valley, I think. I'm not sure it's not
She spent time in Huntington Beach, plenty of time in Huntington Beach as well. Yeah.
What's the Fountain Valley, and then what's next to that?
Well, we've got Fountain Valley, Costa Mesa. We have Garden Grove in Newport Beach.
She grew up in Garden Grove.
She was born in Garden Grove.
And
Long Beach.
This is all our hood from way back.
Seal Beach is next to you. I had family there.
You're welcome back anytime.
We're down there all the time. I got to see Chef Gruel, though. Also, Chef Gruel his businesses are there.
Yeah, and a friend of mine. Yeah, Calico is his fish company.
We got to get in there.
Yeah,
but tell us the housing story. I know that's something you wanted.
Yeah, and it's a massive point of contention, but also a massive legal battle. So Huntington Beach, we actually sued the state of California over these housing laws as unconstitutional, and we sued in federal court. So that's ongoing, and I'm actually going to be arguing in the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals October 21st for anybody who wants to log on and listen. But we are basically suing the state that these housing laws are unconstitutional for Huntington Beach and other charter cities. The state also sued us basically because the city didn't adopt a housing element, and I won't get too wonky or boring with the data, but the state is basically saying that Huntington Beach has to build 13,368 units of what they call affordable housing. We call it high density housing because it's very, very destructive. But the state law also says that developers have to build at a 20% inclusionary rate. Well, if you're going to satisfy that quota that the state is mandating, the 13,368, you actually have to build for 41,000 new units of high-density housing. Jeez. Huntington Beach only has 81,000 units of housing, and we're 100% built out.
Wow.
So what the state is basically saying is, we're targeting Huntington Beach. You're fully developed, yes, but we're going to make you basically, in essence, turn over those developed properties into high-density housing. And we know from environmental studies that there's massive environmental destruction as a result of this massive building, including, believe it or not, Dr. Drew, a depletion of our groundwater table, our water supply, but the state doesn't care.
Right.
And just so the audience knows, 95% of the state's population resides in 5% of the territory.
Mm.
So 95% of the territory is undeveloped. Now, granted, there's mountains and undevelopable areas, but there's plenty of developable areas in that undeveloped area.
Mm-hmm.
So the state's program is what? To target the 5% of the territory where people already live and it's already developed. Target them for redevelopment because they don't like single family homes. They don't like these neighborhoods where people can enjoy their quality of life. They literally are coming in and saying, we want high density everywhere. And they're saying, well, we want more housing because we need more affordable housing. That whole affordable housing thing that's a hoax. That's another hoax because there's no empirical data. And we've insisted that the state in court prove to the court that high density housing, more high density housing translates or equals more affordable housing. And it doesn't. There's no empirical data to support that more high density housing equals more affordability. So it's literally punitive. It seeks to redevelop. And we're pushing back because we want the state to leave us alone, allow our city to remain untouched by these mandates and by this redevelopment. And so we've been pushing back. So, hopefully I didn't get too far into the weeds, but for context, I think it matters how punitive this is and what the state's really asking. This isn't some cavalier request by the state that says, every city should do its fair share and take on some more building and more development. No, and here's another thing. Where Governor Newsom lives in Marin County, no requirements.
Of course.
So in his neighborhood and where he has his wineries in Napa, no requirements. But in cities like Huntington Beach, we're expected to redevelop at his request. And so these are fights that are not going away. We're going to stay in court for a long, long time pushing back because it's unreasonable and it would dramatically change the Huntington Beach that you know.
I just see it as ideologies that are disconnected from reality, and reality begs no concern.
Right. And if the state really has a problem with the housing supply in California, go to the cities or go to the areas where there's swaths of undeveloped land and incentivize developers to develop there.
Yeah, sure.
It's there. There's fertile ground for stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
There's no fertile ground in Huntington Beach. We're fully developed.
What is that? Well, what is Newsom up to? What makes that guy tick? I don't get it. Now he's going to help clean up the homeless? I don't believe it.
Right. Well, when it comes to housing, he wants to urbanize every city. He wants every city to look like San Francisco. When it comes to the homeless, I think it's convenient now after that Grants Pass case came down from the U.S. Supreme Court, basically saying that cities can start enforcing their homeless ordinance or anti-camping ordinances again. He's now just jumping on the bandwagon because it's politically convenient. Where he should have come out with this a long time ago. And
it's so weird. He's going, what's going on here? No urgency? No urgency. Where were you 10 freaking years ago? Right. How many people have died since he started saying it was his number one priority to help this problem?
And allowing these people to stay on the street in squalor with much of the population has mental illness and much of the population, because of Prop 47, 57, and 109, they do have criminal history. So to leave people in those conditions, living in those conditions, is completely inhumane.
Yes, ridiculous. I talked to anybody that's made it out. They'll tell you what it's like in there. So how do we, what's going to save us? You mentioned your take on, I think it was the housing, it being unconstitutional. Mm-hmm. Is it the Constitution that is going to save us? Is it an entrenchment in the Bill of Rights and our constitutional principles and people going out and fighting for those? Is that it? Is that what's going to get us through this?
The constitutions, both the federal and the state, even the California state constitutions, have a lot to offer cities and individuals to fight back and to push back. The toolbox is there. We just need to really tap into it and be aggressive.
We need Huntington Beach has somebody. Do you have colleagues around the country that are doing this?
Well, and around the state, we do have some colleagues. Here's the rub, though. Not a lot of cities out of the 482 have elected city attorneys who really have incentive by the dynamics of being elected to stick their neck out to the constituents and really put that extra in to fight for them, right? Yeah. There's only 10 cities out of 482 cities that have an elected city attorney in the entire state of California. Now, notably, they are the larger cities. So 75% of the population of California votes for a city attorney or elects their city attorney. But what we need to do is we do need, like you're insinuating, more cities to stand up and say, you know what, enough is enough. And it used to be when I was a kid that we would talk about sort of the political pendulum swinging back and forth.
Yes.
I don't know that that's something that, those who are against Newsom or maybe more conservative really should expect natural forces to occur. I think it's going to take courageous people, moderates, conservatives, whoever, to be sensible and say, you know what, we've had enough. We're going to stand up and we're going to start suing and we're going to start taking the state to task. The other thing that cities can do, Dr. Drew, is start adopting some local laws. Like especially if you're a charter city, charter cities have that ability to make their own laws independent from the state over local issues.
Interesting.
The voter ID is a perfect example. If more cities adopted voter ID policies, if more cities adopted local laws that said, you know what, we're no longer going to have the lewd books available to our children in our children's libraries, things like that. Start pushing back, adopt ordinances, start suing, start pushing back. If we can get enough cities to do that, the state will be taken to task. They will be corrected, but they'll also stand down. They're bullies right now because cities have allowed them to be. I mean, let's be honest about that.
I don't think the average citizen doesn't know that they can fight back. They just feel completely helpless.
Citizens need to talk to their city councils. They need to get their cities on board. We need to be
city
suing.
Council, if you're an LA city council, they want to sue Toyota because they made it too easy to take off catalytic converters. That's what's causing catalytic converters to be stolen. Mind you, you have to jack the car up and take out a blowtorch to take off the converter. That's too easy. Made it too easy.
But no, I mean, we are going to have.
I'm sorry, a sawzall. You need a sawzall and a jack to get under the car and cut out the catalytic converter.
But I think my point is the days of voting and just hoping for the political pendulum to swing, I don't think that's California right now. I don't think there's an environment for that. I think what it's going to take is people to actually be courageous, cities to actually be courageous and stand up and start suing, because that, I think, is where we're gonna get some traction.
Back to, Ben, my concern is the public health excess. How do we solve that problem that we've granted these sweeping privileges to public health officials, particularly at the state and federal level, to supersede the Bill of Rights, amongst other things? What do we do with that? That's in our Constitution, and it shouldn't be.
Well, and a lot of it's been abused. So there is a process, both in Constitution and state law, that when there's a health crisis, like we'll go back to COVID, there's a process where the state has to come to certain conclusions and give some direction to the county level officials, and then the county level officials.
Hang on, you used the word should give some direction. That has always been public health's role is to give direction, not to sit in a monarchical position of thus saith the Lord.
Right. And what's worse is at the time during COVID, you saw Newsom take to the podium almost every day with new direction. Guess what? That's not the process.
And we had a mayor in Los Angeles that would get on the podium every night and say, shelter in place, shelter in place. Yeah. If you're 9 years old and hearing that, you're going to kill your parents and your grandma if you don't hide under your bed.
Right. So, and this is where at the time in 2020 and 2021, Huntington Beach pushed back and said, look, what Newsom is saying from the podium can't possibly apply to Huntington Beach because you don't give health directives and lockdown directives from a podium. Even the governor, people think, well, why not the governor? He's the most powerful in the state. No, there's a constitution, like you said, and there are state laws on this point. The state health agencies should give direction to and guidance to the local county officials. And then it's up to the county officials who are in charge of their cities to give direction there. So
give direction.
When Newsom closed our beaches, the county health officials were not involved in that. He literally leapfrogged over them and went straight to our beaches with his enforcement agents.
Yeah, because he wasn't interested in giving direction. He was interested in enforcement. And, I have a little theory that a lot of these people started as sort of anti-authoritarian when they were young, and now that they're in authority, God help you all, because now they're gonna have their way with us, and they're doing it. It's disgusting. It's anti-American. Is there some sort of coalition of people like you nationally or even state-wise?
So we do coordinate and talk to a lot of other cities. A lot of other cities are very, very pleased with what we're doing, and they want to join. But for a lot of cities, they may hire outside lawyers. There may be costs associated. So for them, they're looking at cost benefit and they're like, there is a benefit, tangible benefit to fighting these fights, but the costs are pretty high. So really they're saying, hey, but Huntington Beach is taking on the fight. So if they win, we win. So there's a little bit of sidelining, self-sidelining by a lot of these other cities because they're looking at our fights, they're reading our lawsuits, and they're saying, hey, if you win, we win.
Because it becomes case law that they can just go right to the court with and be done?
Right, or if we're basically resting on a charter city argument that we have a constitutional right to do something certain, whatever it is, zoning or otherwise, and then other charter cities are saying, okay, good, well, if you win on that argument, we win too. It's just like the SB 9 challenge out of City of Redondo Beach. City of Redondo Beach mounted a challenge to SB 9, which is that state law that basically allowed single-family lots to be subdivided into multiple lots, right? Well, that densifies a single-family community, right? Like, and really, if you're concerned about harmony and quality of life and enjoyment of life, that's the last thing you want to do. Well, the state said...
There's no going back either.
Well, and the state said, yeah, too bad, so sad. We're going to move forward with this. SB 9 is what it's known as. City of Redondo Beach challenged them on a charter city theory and argument. They prevailed. So now SB 9 is unconstitutional as it relates to charter cities. So, brick by brick, fight by fight, we need to keep fighting and pushing back.
What do you want the average citizen to do other than talking to their city attorney, I guess, or getting behind them? Or I mean, other than voting, it feels like voting is not fast enough.
Yeah, I think what I want the audience to know, or want voters to know in California is, there is a path forward. There is a reason to hope and have hope. I have heard from so many people, and I've converted them. They say, well, the state's so powerful. It's all one-sided anyway. The governor's got so much authority. These are state laws. There's nothing we can do. And I'm like, no. You got to look at it differently. So my hope is that people start to realize democracy, even though you may not see it when you're walking around the streets of California, democracy is still alive and well. And the Constitution, even though you may not recognize it in California, California has a constitution of limited government too, just like the federal. If we keep fighting, the Constitution's there as a resource too. So I'm hoping that people have hope, that they have optimism, that they have a reason to move forward, that they have a reason to talk to their council member, that they have a reason to talk to their mayors and their city attorneys and say, you know what, enough is enough. And they can sign petitions. They can get petition drives started in their cities. And look, California is really, really too big, really for Governor Newsom to govern it on that micro level that we've been talking about, whether it's closing beaches or housing or whatever. It's too big. We need to be governing for ourselves at the local level. And so I'm just hoping that people take up the figurative arms and say, you know what, we are going to fight this fight and take our cities back. Not even take the state back. Take your cities back, folks. Take your cities back.
My son's an attorney, and when I was so upset during the darker hours of COVID, he goes, the courts are the courts are good for something. They're going to sort this out. I was like, what are you talking about? I go, we'll just see what happens here. It's going to take some time, but the courts will sort this out. And you are living proof that is the case.
Yeah, and I have, as an officer of the court too, I do have a lot of faith in the judicial system. I will tell you though, it's a very interesting position to be in when you are a city attorney up against state attorneys on the other side of the table in court, state attorneys challenging state laws in front of a state judge.
Yeah, I bet.
So it's quite an experience. It's quite an uphill battle, but we're there fighting. We're not going to give up. And like I said, we're going to try federal courts where appropriate. And we are just going to keep fighting. We are absolutely not going to give up. I love Huntington Beach. I think its direction, its leadership, it's greenlighting my ability to take the state to court, take them to task is awesome. And we're going to keep it up. And I just hope other cities join us.
Well, it's an honor and a privilege to have you here today. And I appreciate you bringing this to us and to our audience, and that we can understand what this is, and people can feel less helpless and less put upon by their government. I think as a friend of mine says, COVID, many of us have not gotten over it. And not COVID, but what the government did. And that has what's been informing me lately. So I am very interested in what you're doing.
And I want to thank you for what you're doing here with this program. Your free speech approach to getting the word out to the nation, to our communities is incredibly, incredibly invaluable.
Very
so
kind.
Thank you so much.
It's the one political position I can take with great clarity, which is free speech, and I'll fight for it. That's it. Freedom of speech should be free. I'll defend anybody's right to say just about anything. And I'm willing to stand up for that right now. I'm super clear about that, because they took away a lot of our rights and privileges. And the one that got us through it, I would say, would be this freedom of speech. And we've been here, sort of being the French underground ever since the darker days of COVID. Susan, anything from your standpoint? I know
I'm moving to Huntington Beach.
you hearken from
I
the
was
great.
thinking maybe we're going to go to Orange County. Like now I'm moving to Huntington Beach.
Yeah, I know we've wanted to move to Orange County for a long time because we were both sort of. She definitely grew up there. I partially grew up there, and it's different. It's great, and it managed to fight off the excesses of this totalitarianism.
And our city council last year passed a ban on mask mandates and vaccine mandates. So Huntington Beach, in addition to being a city of parents have a right to know what's going on with their children with regard to education, it's also a no mask ban city and a no vaccine ban city. So we don't have mandates.
Right.
If they ever come back.
So imagine that. Here is a city functioning as a democratic institution who's not going to mandate what you do with your body.
That's right.
Shocking. That is shocking to me. Right. How dare they? They hope the rest of the state should be coming down on Huntington Beach for protecting the integrity of somebody's body against the state. That's just so weird. Where am I?
Freedom rings in Huntington Beach.
I'm in Twilight Zone. I'm truly in the Twilight Zone that's an unusual thing, or that a city has to assert that. All right. Well, listen, it's been a privilege, and I really appreciate you being here. Thank you so much.
Excellent.
And good luck with all this, and I hope you'll come back and report on it again. Seems like, Susan, there's a bunch of people watching, right? And people are interested in what Michael's saying.
We had 30,000 people watching, and they're wondering why you keep banging your mic around.
Me?
Yes.
Yes.
I was not aware of it. Okay, why don't you put it up on the screen there? I would have done something.
I tried.
Put a banner up.
I don't have any free hands. I'm running the cameras and the sound.
You told me to move it away. I did move it away. I moved it away.
Well,
okay.
I couldn't
want to mess
interrupt
with
you
his
guys.
flow.
You were so good.
I'm seeing
Nobody
something on the
cares.
screen,
It's
though, that I
okay.
did. I was
It's actually
thinking
funny.
myself, is this guy should be governor someday. And I feel that way, or AG or something, but it protect us from the excesses. I mean, it's just, again, if these people would get more connected to reality and help the people of California thrive and live a good life, all of us, every single one of us, I want all of us to thrive in this state. They're not doing it. The proof is in what has happened and what they have done. It's obvious that they are destroying things, not enhancing life for Californians. So call me crazy. Thank you so much, everybody. Caleb, anything on your end? Got an
no, that was all.
Schedule?
Yeah, let me put up the upcoming schedule real quick.
We actually, speaking of Constitution, we have a very important guest tomorrow, Jonathan Turley, and also Ivor Cummings on Wednesday. Peter McCullough coming in August 20th. He's going to update some stuff. I've become much closer with Peter as a result of TWC, and I know what he's thinking now, so I'll be better able to bring that to life. Tony Schaefer, Ron Johnson, Senator Ron Johnson coming in, and then a Salty Cracker reunion.
What about Shanahan?
Go ahead.
It's coming on Wednesday, the 23rd. Didn't we move?
We did. So the vice presidential candidate with RFK, Shanahan, she's going to be interviewed. I'll interview her in her, I guess, her studio or her home.
Yeah, we're going to her studio
on
Malibu.
August 21st. Am I getting that correct, everybody?
Yeah, we moved Tony Schaefer.
Good. Okay, so that will be the VP candidate for the RFK team. And I will see you all tomorrow for Jonathan Turley at 3 o'clock right here. Thank you for joining us.
Ta-ta.
Ask Dr. Drew is produced by Caleb Nation and Susan Pinsky. As a reminder, the discussions here are not a substitute for medical care, diagnosis, or treatment. This show is intended for educational and informational purposes only. I am a licensed physician, but I am not a replacement for your personal doctor, and I am not practicing medicine here. Always remember that our understanding of medicine and science is constantly evolving. Though my opinion is based on the information that is available to me today, some of the contents of this show could be outdated in the future. Be sure to check with trusted resources in case any of the information has been updated since this was published. If you or someone you know is in immediate danger, don't call me, call 911. If you're feeling hopeless or suicidal, call the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline at 800-273-8255. You can find more of my recommended organizations and helpful resources at drdrew.com/help.